Our unfiltered tap water doesn't taste very nice. Here, you try, Seth.
Okay. Disgusting.
You know what we need? We need a whole house water filtration system. So in this episode of Rad Dad Builds, I'm going to be showing you exactly how I installed the RKIN whole house water filtration system and the RKIN Undersink reverse osmosis system.
Delicious.
So if you want delicious drinking water in your house, you're going to want to follow along this video. And as always,
Water and swamp.
yeah! So as you can tell by these epic boxes that I've just received the RKIN whole house water treatment system and the RKIN Undersink reverse osmosis system. So when you go to rkin.com to purchase your very own whole house filtration system, you got to select the correct system for your household by selecting how many bathrooms you have in your household. So my household has 3 bathrooms. So here we have the 2 to 5 bathroom system. For now, I'm going to put the Undersink system to side and we'll come back to this later on the video. And we'll open these up and see what we got and start beginning the prep stages of this epic water filtration system. Yeah! So the system that I have comes in 3 different boxes. The 2 tall ones contain the OnlySoft filter tank and the carbon filter tank. And these things are no joke. And then the 3rd box contains the sediment filter housing, 2 UV protective jackets for the OnlySoft and the carbon filter tank, stainless steel flexible hoses and the 2 bypass valves. A pack of 4 1-inch PVC elbow fittings and the hose bib assembly pack, the mounting kit for the sediment filter and the wrench for the sediment filter, and finally the sediment filter itself. So before we can start the installation of the whole system, first we need to prep the carbon tank and the OnlySoft tank. Okay, so first things first is to make sure that the 2 tanks are standing up correctly. If they're leaning, it means that they're not sat in their boot correctly. So in order to address that, you simply pick it up and drop it in until it stands vertically straight inside the boot. You do this on both tanks. I then grab the 2 bypass valves and then threaded them onto the OnlySoft and the carbon filter tank. These both get tightened by hand and both have stops telling you when the bypass valves are securely attached. Once those were secured, I then assembled the 1-inch PVC elbow fittings. The fittings come with 2 grooves. The first one houses the white plastic ring, and then the second one houses the rubber seal ring. I prepped the intake on the carbon filter tank with Teflon tape. I then attached by hand the 1-inch PVC elbow to the intake of the carbon filter tank. I then repeated the exact same steps to the OnlySoft tank. I then finally attached the hose bib assembly to the 1-inch PVC elbow fitting on the carbon filter tank. Now that the 2 tanks are standing perfectly upright, it's now time to soak the filters. To do so, we gotta take them outside, fill them all the way up of water and let them sit for 2 whole days. Once the 2 days has passed, then we can bring them back in and get them installed. So let's go do that. I brought both tanks outside to my nearest outdoor faucet and then connected my hose to the hose bib assembly. I turned the bypass valves into in service mode and then carefully and slowly turned on my hose. And then kept the hose running until the tank was overflowing. Once the tank was overflowing, I then turned off my hose, turned the tank into bypass mode, and then removed the hose completely. I then repeated the exact same steps to the only soft tank. Once both tanks were full, I then moved them somewhere safe to soak for a minimum of 2 days. So while the filters are soaking, I want to talk to you about the advantages of having filtered water in your home, and better explain the tests we're going to do to the water before and after the systems are installed. So the whole house water filtration's main goal is to filter out and reduce the amount of sediment, chlorine and other disinfection byproducts which causes havoc to your plumbing and your appliances. Which basically means cleaner and better tasting drinking water which is softer for your skin and your hair. Once the Undersink reverse osmosis system is installed, that simply takes the cleanliness of the water to a whole nother level, by removing up to 99% of contaminants such as fluoride, chlorine, heavy metals and many others. We will be fine testing that with this TDS meter, which is the total dissolved solids reader at the very end. So right now we're going to test the water's chlorine and TDS levels before any of the filters installed, and then test again at the end once both systems are installed to do a comparison. Okay, so we filled up the chlorine chart in a small glass full of the water before any of the filters are installed. And right now we're going to test for the chlorine, which is this guy. So right now it's reading, I would say about 3.0 on the chart, which is the highest reading for the chlorine. So that's quite a lot. Oh, and then now we're going to test with the TDS meter. So right now it says it's 000, and then with the water we have, what numbers do you see there? What numbers do you see there?
0, 3, 0.
Yeah, so 30. So that's reading 30 right now with the water that's unfiltered. So we're gonna finish installing the filters and then go test the water after the fact and see the comparison.
Yeah.
So now that these have been sat here soaking for a good couple of days, it's time to flush them out before we can get them installed. So let's go do that. I reinstalled the hose bib assembly tank to the carbon tank and then reinstalled the hose to the hose bib assembly. I put the tank into in service mode and then turned the hose on halfway and kept it running for about 15 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, I then shut off the hose and then attach the elbow to the outlet side of the tank. I then let the hose run for about 5 to 10 minutes. I then finally reattached the assembly to the inlet valve and then let it run for another 10 minutes. Once fully flushed out, I then put the tank into bypass mode, swapped the two tanks over and then attached the hose assembly to the inlet valve on the OnlySoft tank. I turned the tank into in service mode and then run the hose, flushing it out for about 5 minutes. I then shut off the hose, attached it to the outlet side of the tank and then flushed that out for another 5 minutes. Once flushed out, I put the tank into bypass mode and then this stage of the project is complete. Okay, so I brought the two prepped filtration tanks in from outside into my creepy basement. This is where the water comes in from the street into my house and feeds all the plumbing inside my house. So I'm going to put these aside for a second and then we'll go into more detail where the plumbing comes in and how we're going to attach them. So this cupboard houses my current water filtration system, and comparing this to the new one, this one obviously needs to be upgraded. And this creepy hole is where the plumbing comes from the street up into our house. The best place in your home to install a water filtration system is where the water or the plumbing first comes into your house, before it goes anywhere else. Once you've found that location, the first thing you need to do before we do anything else is turn off the main water supply. For me, I can do that here, but more often than not, you have to go outside to the front of your house and find that green little box that has all the spiders in it. Oh.
Ew.
I don't like spiders, so you're gonna have to do it.
No, don't supposed to be wimp. Ow, spider!
Once you've shut off your main water supply to your home, you want to try and clear out as much water from the pipes as you can. So you want to go around and turn on all the baths, all the taps, all the showers, and all the hoses on the outside to help clear out all the water. I turned on all the faucets in my home until the water flow completely stopped. It's also helpful to find the faucet which is at the lowest point of your house. Once I was certain that the water was shut off, I then began by removing the old water filter. I then removed all the old plumbing assembly to that filter so then I could start fresh. I measured from the ground to the center of the bypass valve on one of the tanks. I then transferred that mark on the wall to where the tanks will be sitting. I cut the plumbing supply just below that mark and then inserted a T fitting into the plumbing supply. I then clamped a PEX O-ring over the fitting, securing it into place. If you don't have access to a PEX clamp, push-fit fittings are a great DIY alternative, which I'll link down in the description down below. I then installed a second fitting above, and then finally plumbed the two together with a shut-off valve in between. Next, I removed the lid from the sediment filter housing. I then attached the mounting bracket to the lid, keeping in mind the direction of the flow of water. Once the bracket was attached, I then removed the lid and put the casing aside. I attached two more shut-off valves to the T fittings and then marked a level line from that shut-off valve. And then on that line, I roughly marked the position of the sediment filter. Because of the insulation attached to the concrete wall, I cut out and attached a piece of plywood to where the sediment filter tank is gonna be hung. I then attached the second elbow to the outlet side of the carbon filter tank, again using P-TECH on the thread. And I also attached a 1-inch MNPT to 3/4 inch PEX adapter to the inlet side of the carbon filter tank. I'll link all the extra parts that I needed in the description down below. The kit also provides a 1-inch flexible hose which goes from the tank to your plumbing supply if you don't have this equipment. Once the carbon filter tank was dressed, I then plumbed it into the plumbing supply. No matter what side your plumbing comes from, it's important that the carbon tank will always go first. Once the carbon tank was in, I then hung the top section of the sediment filter. Because the cupboard of where all this is going is kind of tight, I hung the filter slightly higher so I can keep everything a bit more compact. I attached one of the two male NPT fittings to the sediment filter tank, again using Teflon tape on the thread. Once the fitting was installed, I then joined the two tanks together using the 1-inch stainless steel flexible connector hose provided. Next, I dropped the filter in the casing of the sediment tank. I then applied the lubricant provided with the tank around the seal. Once sealed, I screwed in the bottom half of the sediment tank to the top housing, and then completely tightened it up with the wrench provided. I then attached the second NPT fitting to the outlet of the sediment tank, and attached the second flexible connector hose to that fitting. Next, I finished assembling the Undersink tank and then attached the 1-inch MNPT to 3/4 inch PEX fitting to the outlet of that tank. I put the tank into position and then connect the flexible connector hose to the inlet of the Undersink tank. And finally connected the plumbing from the Undersink tank to the plumbing supplying the rest of the house. Once I was happy that everything was plumbed in correctly and I double checked all the fittings, I slowly turned on the water supply, filling up all 3 tanks. As the tanks were gaining pressure, I checked all the fittings in case there was any drips of water. Once it was working properly and it was all dry, I then attached the UV protective tank jackets to the tanks, though it's not needed for indoors. They just look super cute. Okay, so now this whole system is installed, it's leak-free and it seems to be working correctly. I wanted to go into more detail about the bypass system that I've created here and exactly how it works. So this system works in 2 ways. Option A is when the water filtration system is in service and is filtering the rest of the house. And that works by this tap still remaining off. You turn these two taps on, and then the water comes up through this one, through the filtration system, through that one, and it pumps to the rest of the house. Say, for instance, you want to take these out to service them, or if you moved and you want to take them with you, you can do so by simply shutting this valve off, shutting this valve off, shutting this one on, creating a bypass from this water filtration system so it goes up, bypasses this, and through to the rest of the house. That way you can do everything you need to do without disturbing the plumbing towards the rest of the house. Hopefully that all makes sense to you. Now that this is installed, let's go upstairs and start part 2 of this video, which is the Undersink reverse osmosis system. So let's see what we got inside the box. So first off, we have the multiple filter assembly. Then we have the lead-free tap, and then in the bag comes with all the fittings and assembly parts. And finally, the pressure tank. So after further inspection, I came to realize that I can't actually install this system in my main kitchen sink upstairs because one, I don't have the facility to drill through the stone to attach the second faucet, and my kitchen sink doesn't accommodate for a second tap. But fortunately for me downstairs, I have a secondary kitchen which we use quite often, and I can install it there. So let's go downstairs and get it installed there. I started off by attaching the water inlet valve to the pressure tank. Next, I drilled a 5/8 hole somewhere on the drain pipe, making sure there's enough room to attach the drain clamp. I then stuck on the seal that comes with the drain clamp directly over the hole. Once that was stuck on, I then attached the drain clamp over that hole, making sure that the outlet on the drain clamp sits directly over the hole you just drilled. Once that was secure, I then drilled a 12mm hole in my sink to attach the lead-free faucet. I attached the faucet using the nut and washers provided. Next, I shut off the cold water supply and then remove the feed to the tap. I then attached the faucet adapter to the cold water supply valve. The faucet adapter accommodates the two different size fittings. Once the adapter was attached, I then reattached the existing faucet. The kit comes with two different size tubings. So I attached the skinnier tube out of the two to the faucet end of the filter assembly. By removing the red clip, inserting the pipe as far as it will go, and then putting the red clip exactly where it just came from. I then hung the filter assembly to the inside of the cabinet roughly 4 to 5 inches from the bottom, that way you can remove the filters when necessary. I cut the supply line I just installed long enough for it to reach the faucet adapter. I then inserted the pipe inside the faucet adapter, again removing the red clip, pushing it as far as I can go, and then putting the red clip back into place. The blue waistline comes already attached to the filter assembly, so I cut it down and attached it to the drain clamp, using the exact same techniques. Now, using the thicker pipe out of the two, I inserted it into the tank outlet of the filter assembly. And then inserted the other end into the valve we installed on top of the pressure tank. Again, remembering to reinsert the red clip. I put the tank on the little seat provided, and then we are nearly done. Finally, I inserted the remainder of the skinnier tubing out of the two and inserted it into the faucet outlet on the water filtration assembly. I then attached the other end of that pipe to the underside of the lead-free faucet we just installed, attaching it with a nut and washer provided with the faucet. I check to make sure that all the fittings are secure, and then I carefully and slowly turn the cold water supply back on. Okay, so now that the reverse osmosis system is working, it's plumbed in and there's no leaks, it's now currently filling up the tank. And they recommend to do 2 full tank cycles before you start drinking the water. So we're going to let it fill it up, empty it out via the faucet, fill it up again, empty it out via the faucet again, fill it up a 3rd time, and then we'll go and test the water and compare it to what we had before. Okay, so now both systems are fully installed and have been running for a couple of days now, so we're going to run some tests and compare them to the tests we did before and see the difference before and after the water filtration systems have been installed. So right now I got a glass of water from the lead-free faucet, which is attached to the Undersink reverse osmosis system, so that's gone through both systems. And I also did the chlorine reader, so we're going to see what that was before. So I remember last time it was reading at the top of the charts, which is the 3.0.
Yeah, now I'm going to do sticking again.
And then we'll do the stick in a second, but that's pretty clear. Like, that's right at the bottom of the scale here. So it's literally dropped from the top of the scale to the bottom of the scale in the chlorine. So it's wiped out most of the chlorine, I'd say, which is pretty impressive. You see it? Okay, so, and then the TDS reader, so the total dissolved solids reader, we're gonna test that and see what that is. So turn that on.
Yeah, can I pull it in, please, guys?
Yeah, put it in from the line. And what are the numbers?
0, 0, 0.
So before it was reading 30, and now it's reading just 0, completely 0. So it's wiped. It's as if it's wiped everything out. So I feel like the results speak for themselves. That's pretty impressive. I can't believe we were drinking that garbage water beforehand.
Yeah.
So that concludes this video. I'm pretty impressed with the results from the water filtration system after it's been installed. And I'm pretty excited to take a bath now and wash my hair in that clean water. So that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got any comments or questions, don't hesitate to ask me down below. If you like DIY, home improvement, and all-round rad stuff, go check out some of the videos which will be floating up around in just a minute. If you want to go see some more day-to-day stuff, go follow me at RadDadBuilds on Instagram. Not yet. We're going to have a bath in a minute. And what are they going to go and do? Subscribe to my channel. And so as always, I'll see you in the next video. Stay rad. Peace.
Bye.
Bye-bye.